Happy Independence Day, everyone out there, fellow Americans. Happy 4th of July, world. We here in the United States are celebrating for you. This is Shannon Scott, the Bard of Bonaventure, and trust me, real patriot and lover of things Revolutionary War. I'm coming to you from inside of the Greenwich section of Bonaventure Cemetery this July 4th, 2019, and we see a part of the old live oaks of the Greenwich homestead that burned in 1929, and that's how sort of this section became a cemetery later. The Evergreen Company acquired and expanded into this section. But, you know, here on July 4th, as we hear fireworks in the distance tonight, as the town gets ready to really party, and many of you out there doing the same thing, I became jealous when I smelled my neighbors' barbecues, because I'm just kind of out here with laryngitis and hanging out on my own. But, you know, I thought I would come out and tell you some stories. So don't forget that this July 4th, Shannon came out and told you some stories. So, you know, it's like I can't go fight a war. You know, I wasn't in the military, but I grew up with a distinct sense of patriotism and love for the country and understanding of our documents of freedom and everything. So, you know, and what can I do on July 4th but remember some special people? And I wanted to introduce you to a family that you're all going to fall in love with. We hear a lot about the have-nots in the media, don't we? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Hadnots. On the far left, we have one of the sons, Luke Jr. We have the father to his right, Luke Sr. Hadnot. The movie star beautiful Evelyn Hadnot. And then little Johnny Hadnot, the youngest son, and kind of a panoramic, or not panoramic, but a collage of the family photos. And we'll zoom in real soon, but Evelyn's parents, the Pryors, are buried down here on the far end. We have Bessie and Willie. And, you know, it may seem a little morbid to come out to a cemetery and tell you about a family who all died on July 4th, 1956. But in a way, I almost saw it as like the perfect moment to share with you out there as you celebrate, because as you do, I hope this story will help you take more time to celebrate with your family in a deeper way, and show them more affection and reverence, and share joyful things together, and of course freedom together, because the Hadnots, who had a lot of that, they were kind of the all-American family and did very well in life until life was cut short for all four of them over 50 years ago today. But this family was known around the United States. The images that we find at the graves came from various newspapers that celebrated the family who had survived a head-on train crash with another passenger train, I believe in 1952. Now, I must apologize, but my printer wasn't working today, and I've not dusted this story off since Hurricane Matthew shut Bonaventure down for 3 months, and I was touring out here in the Greenwich section. So I've not dusted this story off in quite a while, so please forgive me for any memory lapse. But essentially in 1952, the family traveling, I believe, across Louisiana, and they may have been heading to New Orleans or were heading back maybe from Baton Rouge, where maybe Luke Hadnot was from. I can't remember that exactly, but they were heading home in some direction and just enjoying life together as a family. And Johnny was but a toddler, and Luke was a young child as well. But the train crashed head on, and I believe the parents were a couple cars back, and the two boys were in the train car behind the engineer train, or maybe one train behind, or one boxcar behind that. But they survived miraculously and really got out with but a scratch. And this particular photograph shows Luke Sr., the beautiful Evelyn, God, what a babe, and the youngest son, or the oldest son, sorry, Luke Jr. And you see Luke Jr. is bandaging his mother's foot, and of course the country made a big deal about that this all-American family, thank goodness they had survived the train wreck. And there we see little Johnny riding in the back of Luke Sr., or Luke Jr. rather. And then let me show you off Evelyn. Hello, whistles from the peanut gallery. What a babe. Goodness gracious. I know I keep saying that, but Evelyn, my God, you were. And yeah, they always say the good die young. Well, she died beautiful. But here we have the whole snapshot. Little Johnny there. Oh, isn't he dapper? And yeah, they just look like such serious, good young guys. And Mom's a little frowny for that one. But by the way, the father, Luke Sr., owned a really successful plumbing company. And from what I can tell from the wealth of the family, which I would say they were upper middle class. They could have been rich, I'm not sure. But, he supplied plumbing for big businesses, shipping, private, homes. I mean, you name it, the plumbing supply had its own distribution centers. I mean, it was a big company, or a successful company for the mid-20th century. Right after World War II, who knows, maybe he'd been involved in that business too. I don't know the whole scope of the family history. And, anybody out there, please, let's find out more about the Hadnots, because they were so interesting. But nonetheless, the tragic day, July 4th, 1956, the family was traveling, I believe, back to Savannah from Greensboro, North Carolina. And according to an eyewitness, it was a very pretty, pristine day, not a bit of wind on the highway. The sun up, clear sky. And he claimed from across the highway, he just started to see the Hadnots car veering very calmly, not erratically, but very calmly off the highway, almost like, the driver had fallen asleep or, whatever the case was. And as it veered and just sort of floated off the road, it collided head-on with a very solid concrete bridge and hit it dead centered to the hood of the car, which caused it to collapse like an accordion. I believe Luke Sr., the father, Evelyn, and the oldest son, Luke, were all killed instantly, died in a matter of minutes. And Johnny, I believe, was taken to the hospital and died later that night. The thing that's interesting, there was a small family dog in the car. I believe it was kind of like a Jack Russell, but that could be wrong. Again, I'm just kind of dusting this off from my memory. But the Jack Russell or the small dog may have been the culprit, was the theory, that jumping back and forth between the seats, ultimately maybe trying to wrestle the dog still, the car wrecked. But in my mind, that would be more of an erratic thing. You would have seen maybe the driver at least conscious of the fact that this was going on and trying to keep control of the car. That would be almost like a high alert thing. But you kind of wonder if maybe the family just wasn't taking an afternoon nap. They've been enjoying maybe some July 4th stuff with the family in North Carolina, or, earlier that day, wherever they had been. And who knows, maybe Dad did fall asleep while everyone else in the car was napping. And by the time they realized the accident had occurred. But it was quite a loss to a great American family, the Hadnots, beautiful family. And I also think it's notable that all 4 family members were buried in solid bronze caskets, which to me is like Empire Order of the Victorian. Like that was a high dollar burial style for the 1950s, and very much bespeaks how well they had done in life. And yeah, short of gold, what a beautiful burial vessel to, let's say, have their spirits transported into the great family reunion above. And I kind of like to think that they're all together now, and these images of them, the things they're sharing with each other, the connection, still a love eternal as a family. And so, yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is your Bard of Bonaventure, Shannon Scott, coming to you from inside of Bonaventure Cemetery. And I hope with the story of the Hadnots, you'll think of them tonight, and just how blessed you are as a family, how blessed you are as people in our country. And remember, the fireworks don't last forever, but make them beautiful while they do. So come see me soon in Bonaventure. You can keep up with me, of course, at shannonscott.com. And, of course, all the Facebook and Instagram-related social media. And remember, anybody can give you a tour of Bonaventure, but can they really take you on a story journey? That's what I do at Bonaventure Journeys. And I thank you humbly for being my audience on America's Independence Day. Lots of love to you and America and the Hadnots. Good night, Hadnots.